Cracking the Code, 3rd edition. Glossary, eyes. Item sonens, Latin. Sounding the same or alike, having the same sound. A term applied to names which are substantially the same, though slightly varied in the spelling, as in Lawrence and Lawrence. Lawrence with an E and Lawrence with an A. And the like, Blacksford, see note. Note, your straw man's trade name in all capital letters sounds exactly like your true name. Initial letters only capitalized when spoken. When written, however, the two names represent two entirely different entities. One is a legal construct, the name of an artificial person under whose trade name you conduct business. The other is your true name and references and identifies you and expresses your standing as a sovereign. Both names constitute property, however, and may be copyrighted under the common law. See fictitious name, all capital letters, written, proper, artificial person. Identification, proof of identity, Black 6th. Identification of goods, goods to which the contract refers even though the goods so identified are non-conforming. Such identification can be made at any time and any manner explicitly agreed to by the parties. Uniform Commercial Code, Section 2-501, Black 6. See note. Note. Goods equal people. Contract equals birth certificate. Non-conforming equals the man or woman described on the original birth document or contract no longer conforms to the identification factors. Footprint, eye color, hair color, height, weight, etc. described on the original birth document contract. Identification can be made at any time equals identification can be made at birth at any time subsequent thereto. Quotes in any manner explicitly agreed to by the parties equals any way you can be persuaded to accept the accusation and identify yourself with the name on the birth certificate. The mother is the party who usually signs the birth document in the box designated informer or informant. Per Blacks, an informer prefers an accusation, a criminal matter. This is the seminal incident of being accused of having, owning, or being associated with the all capital letters name. You own the strawman's name, but it neither references nor identifies you. The name that more closely references and identifies you is your true name. The U.S. government holds the title of the trade name in the form of the original birth document until it is redeemed by you. i.e., an abbreviation of id est, that is to say, Black 6th. Impairing the obligation of a contract. A law which impairs the obligation of a contract is one which renders the contract in itself less valuable or less enforceable, whether by changing its terms and stipulations, its legal qualities and conditions, or by regulating the remedy for its enforcement. To impair an obligation of a contract within prohibition of Article 1, Section 10, U.S. Constitution, is to weaken it, lessen its value, or make it worse in any respect or in any degree, and any law which changes the intention and legal effect of the parties, giving to one a greater and to the other a less interest or benefit, or which imposes conditions not included in the contract or dispenses with the performance of those included, impairs the obligation of the contract. A statute impairs the obligation of a contract when its terms it nullifies or materially changes existing contract obligations. Black's 5th. In bar, see bar. In blank, a term applied to the endorsement of a bill or note where it consists merely of the endorser's name without restriction to any particular endorsee. Blacks first. See blank endorsement. In personam, Latin, into or against the person, Baron's third. In propria persona, in one's own proper person, Blacks first. In rem, a technical term used to designate proceedings instituted against the thing, in contradistinction to personal actions, which are said to be in personam, Blacks first. Note, all IRS proceedings and actions are in rem under admiralty law, by definition a subset of the UCC, see Uniform Commercial Code 1-103. In this state, see note, Federal Zone, Senate Document Number 43, 73rd Congress, First Session. Note, per California Revenue and Taxation Code, Section 6017, 11205, 17018, and 23034, the terms in this state, and state are defined for tax jurisdiction purposes as District of Columbia, aka United States. Accordingly, California is not included in this state within the above cited section of the California Revenue and Taxation Code. The federal postal designation CA, however, is included in this state. Indirect confession, a confession that is inferred from the defendant's conduct. Individual, the term individual means a citizen of the United States. See 5 USC 552A A2. See note. Endorsement. Endorsement means a signature other than a signer as maker, drawer, or acceptor. That alone or accompanied by other words is made on an instrument for the purpose of 1. Negotiating the instrument, 2. Restricting payment of the instrument, or 3. Incurring endorser's liability on the instrument. But regardless of the intent of the signer, a signature and its accompanying words is an endorsement, unless the accompanying words, terms of the instrument, place of the signature, or other circumstance unambiguously indicate that the signature was made for a purpose other than endorsement. For the purpose of determining whether a signature is made on an instrument, a paper affixed to an instrument is a part of the instrument. UCC 3-204A. The act of a payee, drawee, accommodation endorser, or holder of a bill, note, check, or other negotiable instrument, in writing his name upon the back of the same, with or without qualifying words, whereby the property in the same is assigned and transferred to another, Blacks first. Endorser. Endorser means a person who makes an endorsement, UCC 3-204B. He who endorses, that is to say, being the payee or holder, writes his name on the back of a bill of exchange, etc. Blacks first. Endorsee, the person to whom the bill of exchange, promissory note, bill of lading, etc., is assigned by endorsement, giving him a right to sue thereon. Blacks first. Informant, see informer. Information. In practice, an accusation exhibited against a person for a criminal offense without an indictment. An accusation in the nature of an indictment from which it differs only in being presented by the competent public officer in his oath of office instead of a grand jury on their oath. In French law, the act or instrument which contains the depositions of witnesses against the accused, Blacks first. See note. Note, the birth certificate fulfills all above definitions of an information. Informer, a person who informs or prefers an accusation against another, whom he suspects of the violation of some penal statute. Blacks first, see note. Prefer, to bring before, to prosecute, to try, to proceed with. Thus preferring an indictment signifies prosecuting or trying an indictment. Black 6. Okay, let's see note for informer. Note. Flesh and blood men and women are ruled neither by penal statutes nor any kind of statute, unless they are acting as surety for the trade name, in which they are held accountable exactly as it would be. Statutes obtain only in the case of artificial persons, such as corporations and corporately colored entities like the trade name. On some birth certificates, the signatory is listed as informer or informant, a term that carries criminal implications. Legally, a newborn is an undocumented entity or enemy of the state, a public enemy, according to the Amendatory Act of March 9, 1933, to the Trading with the Enemy Act of October 6, 1917. Any such informer, usually the mother, is informing on, that is to say, lodging a formal complaint or accusation by deposition and identification of the baby. If in all capital letters trade name appears on the document, the informer may also prefer an accusation that the name as inscribed is attached with the infant associated therewith. This can serve as the basis for any subsequent insistence that the all capital letters trade name directly concerns you, the flesh and blood man or woman. Instrument. Instrument means a negotiable instrument or any other writing that evidences the right to the payment of a monetary obligation, is not itself a security agreement or lease, and is of a type that is ordinary course of business is transferred by delivery with any necessary endorsement or assignment. The term does not include 1. Investment property, 2. Letters of credit, or 3. Writings that evidence a right to payment arising out of the use of a credit or charge card or information contained on or for use with the card. UCC 9-102A47. An instrument is a note if it is a promise, and is a draft if it is an order. If an instrument falls into the definition of both note and draft, a person entitled to enforce the instrument may treat it as either. UCC 3-104E. Instrument means a negotiable instrument. UCC 3-104B. Insurance. 1. An agreement by which one party, the insurer, commits to do something of value for another party, the insured, upon the occurrence of some specified contingency, especially an agreement by which one party assumes a risk faced by another party in return for a premium payment. 2. The amount for which something or someone is covered by such an agreement. Black 7th. A contract whereby, for an agreement premium, one party undertakes to compensate the other for loss on a specified subject by specified perils. Bouvier's 8th. See note. Note, FICA, or Federal Insurance Contributions Act, that is to say, Social Security payroll tax, is not an insurance policy in the name of the party paying the premiums. See the curse of co-suretyship in Section 3 of Part 1 of this manual. Inter alia, Latin, among other things. Baron's 3rd. Internal Revenue Service, IRS. USC Title 26, Section 1164, 62, Puerto Rico Special Fund, Internal Revenue. 73rd Congress, Section 2, Chapter 756, June 26, 1934, Congressional Records, page 1234. Quote, the United States of America, through undersigned counsel, hereby responds to the numbered paragraphs of plaintiffs complaint as follows. 4. Denies that the Internal Revenue Service is an agency of the United States government. United States answer and claim. November 18, 1993, Betty H. Richardson, United States Attorney, Diversified Metal Products Inc. versus Tebow Company, Trust Internal Revenue Service, and Steve Morgan. See note. As revealed above, IRS is domiciled in Puerto Rico under the Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico, aka Secretary of the Treasury. IRS officers, agents, and employees are unregistered foreign agents conducting business in America in violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act of 1938. Per sign brief reference above from the United States Attorney, IRS is not an agency of the government. Investment property. Investment property means a security, whether certificated or uncertificated, security entitlement, securities account, commodity contract, or commodity amount. UCC 9-10449. Involuntary suretyship. See suretyship. Alright, now into the J's. Jurat. French, Latin, jurare. To swear. A certification added to an affidavit or deposition stating when and before what authority the affidavit or deposition was made. A jurat typically says, quote, scribed and sworn to before me this particular day of particular month and year. Black 7th. Juristic, adjective, of or relating to law. A corporation is a typical example of a juristic person. Black 7th. Pertaining or belonging to or characteristic of jurisprudence or a jurist or the legal profession. Black's 4th. See note, juristic person. Note, your corporation of one artificial person strawman has a juristic trade name and pertains and belongs strictly to jurisprudence and is a juristic person. Juristic person, see note. Note, Black 7th mentions juristic person under the definition of artificial person, which is defined under person. Person, an entity such as a corporation having the rights and duties of a human being. Black 7th. Artificial person, an entity such as a corporation created by law and given certain legal rights and duties of a human being. A being, real or imaginary, who for the purpose of legal reasoning is treated more or less than as a human being. Also termed fictitious person, juristic person, legal person, Black 7th. Note, the legal definition of, quotes, human being, unquote, is conveniently missing from the law dictionary containing the above definitions. The difference between a human being and an artificial person has been so blurred intentionally and legally by those who would enrich themselves at your expense via the legal system, that the two terms are so overlapped that they are essentially indistinguishable. Treating people as numbers, corporations, etc., is the order of the day for governments, and the virulent hatred of mankind espoused by those who would dominate the world has been legally justified through such specious subterfuge as the above definitions. See monster. I don't even know how to say this word. Justiciable. Justiciable. Let's go with that. Proper to being examined in courts of justice, subject to action of court of justice. See Black's Fourth. See note. Note: matters strictly in the realm of common law and the UCC are not justiciable matters. They are prejudicial, non-judicial matters of private consensual contract. Kangaroo court: a sham legal proceeding that a person's rights are totally disregarded and in which the result is a foregone conclusion because of the bias of the court and other tribunal. Black's Fifth. Kol Nidre, it's a Hebrew word. The opening prayer recited on the eve of Yom Kippur, containing a declaration of the annulment of personal vows and oaths. AHD. All vows, obligations, oaths, and anathemas, whether called konas, or by any other name which we may vow, or swear, or pledge, or whereby we may be bound from this day of atonement until the next, whose happy coming we await, we do repent. May they be deemed absolved, forgiven, annulled, and void, and made of no effect. They shall not bind us, nor have power over us. The vows shall not be reckoned vows. The obligations shall not be obligatory, nor the oaths be oaths. Jewish Encyclopedia, 1901, Volume 5, page 539. See note. Yom Kippur, the Jewish Day of Atonement, a holiday marked by prayer and fasting celebrated in late September or in October. The Doubleday Dictionary, 1975. Anathema, a formal ecclesiastical ban or curse, also any curse. Funk and Wagnall's New College Standard Dictionary, 1947. Note: Kol Nidre is a Hebrew for all vows. Per the Jewish Encyclopedia, any Jew invoking the prayer of Kol Nidre forswears all oaths, vows, obligations, etc. that will be taken in the coming year, thereby absolving himself in advance for dishonoring his sworn oath or word. Children have a similar ritual for playing games wherein a child will cross his fingers and then hide his hand behind his back before giving his word promising something. When confronted about the truth of his sworn statement, the child reveals that he had his fingers crossed and therefore was under no obligation to tell the truth at the time the oath or vow was given. Potentially extremely dangerous consequences are afoot when dealing with someone who has taken the prayer of Kol Nidre, such as in a courtroom when one is dealing with judges, prosecutors, plaintiffs, and attorneys, as well as any other honor-contingent, truth-dependent situations, because such devotees essentially have a self-issued license for lying, bearing false witness, and ignoring obligations. Thus the door is wide open for duplicity, deceit, and betrayal. However, the adherents of this practice are nevertheless dependent upon its general unknownness for profiting from its application. Masons, also known to inhabit courtrooms, have a similar dishonor of oaths by the same name that is called into action for assisting and protecting fellow Masons in legal matters. Masonic Handbook, page 183. Reference: the Jewish Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, as revealed in the comparative article on Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, appearing in the September 24, 2001 edition of the LA Times, entitled Articles of the Faiths. Jews make amends and ask forgiveness for the purpose of restoring relations only with other Jews, that is to say, by being reconciled with each other, Jews are reconciled with God. Okay, and now we're on to the L's. Law merchant, a system of customary law that developed in Europe during the Middle Ages and regulated the dealings of mariners and merchants in all the commercial countries of the world until the 17th century. Many of the law merchant principles came to be incorporated into the common law, which in turn formed the basis of the Uniform Commercial Code. Black Seventh. Law of nations, a system of rules and principles established among nations and intended for the regulations of their mutual intercourse, otherwise called international law. Blacks first. Law of nature, see natural law. Law of the flag, see flag, law of. Law of the land, due process of law. Blacks first. Legal fiction, something assumed in law to be fact, irrespective of the truth or accuracy of that assumption. Example, the legal fiction that a day has no fractions. Field versus Fairbanks, North Star Bureaus. There's your reference. A presumption of fact assumed by a court for convenience, consistency, or to achieve justice. There is an old adage, fictions arrive from law, and not law from fictions. The Real Life Dictionary of the Law. A legal fiction is an assumption that something that is, or may be false or non-existent, is true or real. Legal fictions are assumed or invented to help do justice. For example, bringing a lawsuit to throw a non-existent John Doe off your property used to be the only way to establish a clear right to the property when legal title was uncertain. Orrin's Dictionary of Law. See note. Assume, 1. To take up or take responsibility for, to receive, or to undertake. Assumption, formally transforming someone else's debt into your own debt. Compare with guarantee. The assumption of a mortgage usually involves taking over the seller's mortgage debt when buying a property, often a house. Alright, here's the note. Per the dictionary, a fiction is something created by the imagination. In the field of law, judges have used their imagination to develop an artifice that allows them to call the truth a lie and a lie the truth. This particular type of fiction is termed a legal fiction because it was fabricated within the legal profession. Essentially, it is the doctrine of pretending. Judges operate their courtroom based on let's pretend and do so with license, but without the inconvenience of having to inform you of what they have decided to pretend. Judges live in an artificial world based on pretense, lies, and deceit, and are professional disassemblers. A legal fiction is an assumption of purported fact without having shown the fact to be true or valid, that is to say, an acceptance with no proof. If one does not wish to be a victim of such chicanery, one must forever be on guard to challenge and rebut a judge's arbitrary presumptions and assumptions, such as the all-caps trade name. Also, there is a widespread misconception that the corporation is a legal fiction. A corporation is not a legal fiction. Rather, it is a legal fact, but a fictitious entity nonetheless. Interesting. All right, disassemble, to conceal or disguise the true nature of intentions, feelings, etc., so as to deceive. To conceive one's true nature, intentions, etc. Act hypocritically. Funk and Wagnalls. Legal name. A person's full name is recognized in law, consisting of a first name usually given at birth or at a baptism or christening, and a last name, usually a family name. Black 7th under name. Note, one's legal name is the name of the legal person recognized in law. The only names recognized in law are those of artificial persons and are written in all capital letters. Your straw man's trade name is your true name corrupted into an all capital letters format. Recognized in law equals existing by force or in contemplation of. Law equals legal name equals juristic name equals juristic person equals artificial person. Your legal name equals artificial person. Levy, noun. 1. The imposition of a fine or tax, the fine or tax so imposed. 2. The enlistment of soldiers into the military, the soldiers so enlisted. 3. The legally sanctioned seizure and sale of property, the money obtained from such a sale. Verb, 1. To impose or assess a fine or a tax by legal authority. 2. To enlist for service on the military. 3. To declare or wage a war, to take or seize property, and execution of a judgment. Black 7th. License. In international law, permission granted by a belligerent state to its own subjects or to the subjects of the enemy to carry out a trade interdicted by war. In governmental regulations, authority to do some act or carry out some trade or business in its nature lawful, but prohibited by statute, except with the permission of the civil authority, or which would otherwise be lawful. Bouvier's 8th. When the power is exercised by municipal corporations, a license is the requirement by the municipality of the payment of a certain sum by a person for the privilege of the pursuing his profession or calling, whether harmful or innocent, for the general purpose of producing a reliable source of revenue. Bouvier's 8th. A license fee is a tax. Bouvier's 8th. In the law of contracts, a permission granted, so in the law of contracts, a license is a permission granted by competent authority conferring the right to do some act which without such authorization would be illegal or would be a trespass or tort. Also, the written evidence of such permission. Black's 1st. A permit granted by an appropriate governmental body, generally for a consideration to a person, firm, or a corporation to pursue some occupation or to carry on some business subject to regulation under the police power. A license is not a contract between the state and the licensee, but is a mere personal permit. Black 6th. A revocable permission to commit some act that would otherwise be unlawful. Black 7th. Note, the government has, via licensing, statutorily outlawed working and exchanging with others, that is to say, the process of surviving, except as a privilege. Privileges can be denied, suspended, and revoked. Licenses are issued only in the name of the artificial person trade name. When one applies for a driver's license, one is doing so in the name of the straw man, and one is also attesting that the straw man is a driver, a special commercial status, involved in the transportation of persons or property for the hire or compensation, an occupation that is subject of regulation under the police power. Police seek to enforce or maintain person control. Lien, a tie, bandage. A qualified right of property which a creditor has in or over specific property of his debtor as security for the debt or charge or the performance of some act. Black's 1st. A claim, encumbrance, or charge on property or payment of some debt, obligation, or duty. Black 6th. A fine imposed pursuant to the provisions of subchapter C of chapter 227 of this title, and is a lien in favor of the United States. Post-sentence administration 18 U.S.C. section 3613, chapter 229. A charge, a hold or claim upon the property of another as security for some debt or charge. The term connotes the right the law gives to have a debt satisfied out of the property to which it attaches, if necessary by the sale of the property. Barron's third. A charge or security or encumbrance upon property. Black's fourth. Lien creditor. A lien creditor means any of the following. 1. A creditor that has acquired a lien on a property involved by attachment, levy, or the like. 2. An assignee for benefit of creditors from the time of assignment. 3. A trustee in bankruptcy from the date of the filing of the petition. 4. A receiver in equity from the time of appointment. B. A lien creditor does not include a creditor who by filing a notice with the Secretary of State has acquired only an attachment or judgment lien on personal property or both. UCC 9-102A 52. Limited liability. Liability restricted by law or contract, especially the liability of a company's owners for nothing more than the capital they have invested in the business. See note. Note, limited liability is a fabrication and a fraud. No statute of limitations and no limited liability exists in commerce as per the maxims of law. Quote, once a fraud, always a fraud. And, quote, a thing void in the beginning does not become valid by the lapse of time. Unquote. A limited liability person is 1. A creature of contract required to be insured and bonded, bound to and limited by the contractual terms and conditions of the insurance policy and bond creating, defining, and underwriting the person's office. 2. Obligated to prove solvency to participate in any public forum or jurisdiction by providing to any adverse party upon demand a copy of the insurance policy and bond reference said person's office prior to any court proceeding. And 3. Defined by the insurance policy and bond the contractual terms and conditions of said person's office, scope of authority, basis of functioning, identity, rank, liability, and solvency, the principles of equality under the law, and the integrity of contracts demand that all public officials alleging legal authority to use deadly force exercise scrupulous integrity in the enforcement of the law said officials administer, in compliance with contracts referencing and defining oaths of office, job description, and the insurance policy and bond that define, limit, and override said official's office. Live birth. Live birth means the complete expulsion or extraction from its mother of a product of human conception, irrespective of the duration of the pregnancy, which after such expulsion or extraction breathes or shows any other evidence of life, such as beating of the heart, pulsation of the umbilical cord, or definite movement of voluntary muscles, whether or not the umbilical cord has been cut or the placenta is attached. Heartbeats are to be distinguished from transient cardiac contractions. Respirations are to be distinguished from fleeting respiratory effects or gasps. Model State Vital Statistics Acts and Regulations, 1992 revision. See note, per above, you are a product of human conceptions, that is to say, goods. See goods. Location of debtor. A. Place of business. In this section, place of business means a place where a debtor conducts its affairs. B. Debtor's location, general rules. Except as otherwise provided in this section, the following rules determine a debtor's location. 1. A debtor who is an individual is located at the individual's principal residence. 2. A debtor that is an organization and has only one place of business is located at its place of business. 3. A debtor that is an organization and has more than one place of business is located at its chief executive office. C. Limitation of applicability of subsection B. Subdivision B applies only if a debtor's residence, place of business, or chief executive office, as applicable, is located in a jurisdiction whose law generally requires information concerning the existence of a non-possessory security interest to be made generally available in a filing, recording, or registration system as a condition or result of the security interests obtaining priority over the rights of a lien creditor with respect to the collateral. If subsection B does not apply, the debtor is located in the District of Columbia. UCC 9-307. And we're going to stop there on the L's. Next time we will begin the M's, and we are halfway done with this friggin' glossary.